The emergency lights of the human mining colony Epsilon 9 flickered one last time before going dark. Blood-red emergency protocols painted the corridor walls as Sergeant Marcus Rivera dragged the last surviving child into a hidden evacuation pod. Outside, Concordance warships reduced the colony to molten slag, their energy weapons carving through human settlements like a cosmic butcher's knife. Marcus's hands trembled, not from fear, but from a cold, calculated rage that had been brewing for generations. The child, no more than 8 years old, looked up with eyes that had seen too much horror. Her name was Aria, named after the legendary Admiral Chen who had become a beacon of hope for humanity's resistance. "Stay quiet," Marcus whispered, his voice a razor-sharp promise of survival. The colony had been more than just a mining outpost. It was a symbol of human resilience, one of the few remaining independent settlements beyond the Concordance's direct control. For weeks, they had known the attack was coming. Intelligence networks, built through decades of sacrifice and strategic planning, had predicted this moment with terrifying precision. Dust and debris from the external explosion filtered through the pod's emergency seals. Marcus's augmented hearing picked up the systematic destruction outside, the methodical approach of an alien force that saw humans as nothing more than resources to be extracted and discarded. But they didn't know everything. His fingers, scared from years of underground resistance, traced a complex pattern on the pod's emergency beacon. Each touch was a coded message, a promise whispered through the vast darkness of space. "We are coming." The communication was more than a simple distress signal. It was a trigger, a carefully orchestrated sequence that would set in motion a plan centuries in the making. Each touch activated quantum-encrypted protocols buried deep within humanity's most secret infrastructure. Little Aria watched silently, her small hand gripping a pendant that hung around her neck. It wasn't jewelry. It was a data crystal containing fragments of humanity's most closely guarded technological secrets. Generations of scientists, engineers, and resistance fighters had encoded their most brilliant innovations into these small, unassuming crystals. Marcus knew the odds. The Concordance had destroyed hundreds of human colonies. They had systematically stripped away human potential, treating entire populations as disposable resources. But this time, something was different. Deep within the solar system's hidden shipyards, a plan had been brewing. Not just a plan, but a meticulously crafted revenge centuries in the making. Massive construction facilities buried beneath the moons of Jupiter, the caves of Mercury, and the deep space platforms near Titan hummed with an energy that would soon change everything. 500,000 dreadnoughts waited in absolute silence. Each moment of destruction was another thread woven into humanity's tapestry of revenge. Each colony burned was another motivation for the most sophisticated technological uprising the galaxy had ever witnessed. Marcus looked down at Aria and saw not just a child, but the future. A future the Concordance would never understand. "We're going home," he whispered, sealing the pod's final protective measures. The universe was about to learn that humanity's silence was not surrender, it was preparation. Admiral Aria Chen stood before the holographic display, her cybernetic eye scanning schematics that would make the most advanced alien engineers weep. 30 stories beneath the Martian surface, the primary command center of Project Prometheus, hummed with an energy that defied conventional physics. Her prosthetic arm, a marvel of human engineering that was more advanced than entire alien spacecraft, twitched slightly as she reviewed the final diagnostics. Each movement was a testament to humanity's ability to transform limitation into innovation. The arm wasn't just a replacement. It was a sophisticated neural interface that could process computational algorithms faster than most supercomputers. "Begin final system integration," she commanded, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of massive quantum processors. Dr. Samuel Wong, the chief architect behind the Dreadnought network, looked up from his station. His hands danced across holographic interfaces, each gesture synchronizing hundreds of thousands of complex systems. Decades of research, countless sacrificed careers, and the collective genius of humanity's best minds converged in this moment. The Dreadnoughts were more than just ships. They were living organisms of pure technological brilliance. Each vessel contained a distributed neural network that could think, adapt, and strategize with a complexity that made traditional artificial intelligence look like primitive clockwork. Quantum adaptive armor formed a living skin that could reshape itself at the molecular level. Gravity manipulation drives could compress space-time, turning entire planetary defense systems into nothing more than cosmic dust. Neural synchronization at 97.3%, Wong reported, his voice betraying a hint of excitement. Complete system integration in 3 minutes. Chen's cybernetic eye zoomed in on specific system readouts. Each dreadnought carried more than just weapons and technology. They carried the collective memory of every human colony destroyed, every life lost, every dream crushed by the Concordance's systematic oppression. The shipyard was a cathedral of revenge, constructed with such mathematical precision that it defied traditional understanding of engineering. Massive construction arms moved with impossible grace, assembling components that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Nanofabrication systems worked in perfect harmony, creating materials that could withstand temperatures and pressures that would obliterate conventional matter. Prometheus is more than a weapon, Chen muttered, more to herself than anyone else. It's a message. Dr. Wong understood immediately. This wasn't just about military victory. This was about demonstrating humanity's potential. Every system, every algorithm, every microscopic component was designed to show the galaxy that humans were not just survivors. They were evolutionary masters of adaptation. The Concordance had spent centuries believing humans were a disposable species, weak, fractured, easily controlled. They were catastrophically wrong. As the final systems synchronized, a low hum began to build. It started as a barely perceptible vibration, but quickly grew into a resonance that seemed to make reality itself tremble. Quantum entanglement drives powered up, creating interference patterns that would allow instantaneous travel across impossible distances. System check complete, Wong announced. Chen's lips curled into the smallest of smiles. Project Prometheus is ready. The universe was about to learn the true meaning of human potential. Lieutenant Elena Rodriguez adjusted the micro-quantum transponder embedded beneath her skin. Years of covert operations had transformed her into something more than human, a living, breathing intelligence node that could penetrate the most secure systems in the galaxy. The Concordance communication hub on Sigma Proxima looked like an impenetrable fortress, 12-meter-thick neutronium walls, quantum encryption fields that could scramble the thoughts of most biological entities, automated defense systems that could track and neutralize threats faster than most species could comprehend. Elena smiled. Her infiltration had begun decades ago, not with weapons or physical intrusion, but with something far more insidious: information. Each of her implants was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed to do more than just collect data. They could rewrite, redirect, and fundamentally alter the most secure communication networks in the galaxy. The first layer of her infiltration was subtle. Microscopic nanite clusters she had introduced years ago during a routine diplomatic exchange now sat dormant in the hub's primary communication relays. They looked like ordinary maintenance subroutines, invisible to even the most sophisticated scanning systems. Initiation sequence begins in 3, she whispered to herself, though no communication device was active. Her body was a walking quantum computer. Genetic modifications developed in the deepest, most secretive human research facilities allowed her to process information at speeds that would burn out standard biological neural networks. Each breath was a complex algorithm. Each heartbeat, a calculated pulse of strategic potential. The Concordance believed their systems were impenetrable. They had spent centuries developing communication networks that could withstand solar flares, quantum disruptions, and even the most advanced hacking attempts. Their arrogance would be their downfall. Elena's fingers, more precision instrument than human appendage, began to move. Microscopic quantum entanglement processors activated, creating interference patterns that would slowly, systematically dismantle the hub's defensive capabilities. Communication systems began to corrode from within. Military command structures transformed into elaborate labyrinths of misinformation. Planetary defense grids became elaborate mousetraps, their own sensors turned against them. It wasn't about destruction, it was about control. Each system she touched became a symphony of misdirection. Entire communication networks would believe they were functioning normally, right up until the moment humanity's dreadnoughts would emerge. False command chains, redirected priority protocols, strategic blackout points carefully engineered to create maximum confusion. The quantum transponder beneath her skin hummed. A final transmission was coming, the signal that would bring an entire galactic empire to its knees. Prometheus protocol activated, Elena whispered. Across thousands of light years, human sleeper agents embedded in every level of Concordance infrastructure began their final dance. They were more than spies. They were the silent architects of a revolution that would reshape the entire galaxy. The Concordance never saw them coming, and they never would. Nexa Prime shimmered like a jewel of galactic civilization. Massive orbital platforms stretched across its atmosphere, a testament to the Concordance's perceived invincibility. Trillion-credit defense systems hummed with what their engineers believed was absolute security. Quantum-locked communication networks, adaptive shield geometries, predictive defense algorithms that could calculate potential threats centuries in advance. They were wrong. 50,000 dreadnoughts materialized simultaneously, their arrival a cosmic symphony that defied everything known about space-time manipulation. No warp signature, no traditional faster-than-light transition. They simply existed where moments before there was only empty space. Admiral Area Chen's voice cut through every communication channel with surgical precision. For every colony burned, for every child murdered, for every dream crushed, we are justice incarnate. The first wave of attacks was not about destruction. It was about precision. Each dreadnought targeted specific infrastructure with mathematical perfection. Orbital defense platforms found their quantum encryption systems suddenly rewriting themselves. Shield generators collapsed from within, their own protective algorithms turned into cascading failure sequences. Communication networks dissolved into a nightmare of conflicting signals and impossible data streams. Captain Miguel Reyes guided his dreadnought with a thought. The neural interface was more than a control system. It was a living extension of human consciousness. His ship moved like liquid thought, anticipating defensive responses before they could even be conceived. Target the central administrative complex, he subvocalized. The ship responded instantly. A beam of pure energy, not a traditional weapon, but a quantum disruption field, struck the heart of the Concordance's primary governance center. It didn't explode. It didn't burn. Instead, it caused something far more terrifying. Total systemic collapse. Information became a weapon more devastating than any physical assault. Entire communication networks found themselves flooded with perfectly crafted disinformation. Military command structures saw their own orders twisted, redirected, rendered meaningless. Defensive systems began fighting themselves, each subsystem believing it was responding to a different threat. On the surface of Nexa Prime, chaos erupted. Concordance leadership watched in horror as their most secure facilities became labyrinths of technological madness. Quantum lock doors opened and closed randomly. Automated defense systems targeted their own installations. Communication became impossible. Dr. Samuel Wong, monitoring from the hidden command center deep within the solar system, allowed himself the smallest of smiles. "Phase 1 complete," he whispered. The dreadnoughts moved with a grace that defied conventional understanding of space combat. They were not simply ships. They were living weapons, each one a neural network that could think, adapt, and strategize faster than entire enemy command structures. Area Chen's final command echoed across the battlefield. "Demonstrate our potential. Minimize civilian casualties." It was a surgical strike designed to dismantle power, not to destroy life. The Concordance would learn that humanity's revenge was not about blind destruction, but about precise, calculated justice. Nexa Prime trembled. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humanity had arrived. The research vessel Horizon drifted silently at the edge of the combat zone, its sensors capturing what would become the most studied moment in galactic military history. Dr. Kamila Novak watched in clinical fascination as human dreadnoughts transformed the nature of warfare itself. These were not ships in any traditional sense. They were living, thinking entities that defied every known principle of technological engagement. Each dreadnought possessed a neural network so complex that it approached sentience. They didn't just process information. They anticipated it, predicted it, manipulated it with a level of sophistication that made traditional artificial intelligence look like primitive clockwork. An approaching Concordance battle group appeared on the long-range scanners. 10 massive warships, each considered an unstoppable force in traditional galactic conflict. Their weapons could shatter planets. Their shields could deflect entire asteroid bombardments. They lasted 17 minutes. The first dreadnought, designated Prometheus 7, didn't fire a single traditional weapon. Instead, it began a symphony of technological disruption that was almost beautiful in its complexity. Quantum entanglement fields began to rewrite the fundamental operational parameters of the enemy ships. Shield generators collapsed from within. Weapon systems turned inward, their own targeting computers becoming their greatest threat. Communication networks dissolved into a nightmare of conflicting signals and impossible data streams. Dr. Samuel Wong watched the engagement from the primary command center, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Adaptive response protocols at 99.7% efficiency, he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The dreadnoughts moved like living thoughts. Each ship was a node in a massive, distributed intelligence network that could think, adapt, and strategize faster than entire enemy command structures could comprehend. They didn't just fight. They solved the problem of combat with mathematical precision. Captain Elena Rodriguez guided her ship, the Defiant, with nothing more than a thought. The neural interface was more than a control system. It was a living extension of human consciousness. Her ship moved like liquid thought, anticipating defensive responses before they could even be conceived. Tactical assessment, she subvocalized. The ship's intelligence responded instantly, not with a simple report, but with a multi-dimensional analysis that mapped potential outcomes across hundreds of potential scenarios. Each potential response was calculated, predicted, and prepared for in milliseconds. On the horizon, Dr. Novak's hands trembled. She was witnessing something beyond warfare. This was evolution in real time. Humanity wasn't just fighting. They were demonstrating a fundamental leap in technological understanding. Enemy fleets found themselves fighting against an intelligence that could predict and neutralize threats before they even crystallized in reality. It wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about complete, total comprehension. Dr. Wong allowed himself a rare smile. They never understood us, he whispered. We were never the species they thought we were. The battle wasn't a conflict. It was a demonstration. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chambers fell silent. Representatives from 1,000 different species watched in stunned disbelief as the holographic displays showed humanity's unprecedented military action. The Zorax Diplomatic Corps, known for their stoic demeanor, found their translucent skin turning a pale shade of shock. The silicon-based Krexnar delegation's crystalline structures vibrated with an almost palpable tension. Ambassador Lyra Chen, a distant relative of Admiral Arya Chen, stood at the center of the chamber. Her presence was calm, almost serene, in contrast to the cosmic storm humanity had just unleashed. "We are not seeking destruction," she began, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. "We are seeking balance." The holographic displays continue to show the mathematical precision of humanity's technological assault. It wasn't just a military engagement. It was a complete reimagining of strategic conflict. Entire concordance battle groups were being neutralized not through brute force, but through unprecedented technological manipulation. The Querelle representative, a gaseous entity that typically communicated through complex electromagnetic pulses, struggled to process what it was witnessing. Humanity had done something impossible. They had turned technological warfare into an art form of strategic brilliance. Ambassador Chen continued, her words carefully chosen. For centuries, the Concordance has treated human colonies as disposable resources. We are here to demonstrate that humanity is not a species to be controlled or dismissed. Intelligence reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human sleeper agents, embedded so deeply that they were practically part of the infrastructures they inhabited, had systematically dismantled communication networks, defense systems, and strategic command structures. Some alien civilizations began to send diplomatic envoys, fear mixed with a strange sense of admiration. The species they had considered nothing more than cosmic vermin were systematically dismantling the most powerful political entity in known space. Dr. Samuel Wong watched the diplomatic proceedings from the hidden command center. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, tracking the global response in real time. Quantum analysis algorithms mapped potential diplomatic outcomes faster than any traditional intelligence network could comprehend. They're learning, he muttered to himself. Finally learning. The Galactic Council had always operated on a principle of controlled hierarchy. Species were categorized. Potential, threat levels, economic value. Humanity had just rewritten every single one of those parameters. On the outer edges of known space, smaller species, long oppressed by the Concordance, began to see a glimmer of hope. If humanity could do this, what might be possible for others? Ambassador Chen's final statement resonated through the chamber. We do not seek to replace one form of oppression with another. We seek true galactic cooperation, true understanding. The silence that followed was not just about shock. It was about a fundamental recalibration of galactic power dynamics. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a force of cosmic reckoning. The universe would never be the same. The Yurlan hegemony's primary command station hung in the void of deep space, like a massive obsidian fortress. Its designers had spent centuries believing it was the most impenetrable structure in the known galaxy. Quantum-locked defense grids, adaptive shield geometries that could predict and neutralize threats before they materialized, a communication network so secure that it was considered mathematically impossible to breach. Admiral Marcus Rivera watched from the bridge of the Dreadnought Prometheus Prime. His cybernetic eye, a marvel of human engineering, calculated potential attack vectors faster than entire alien command structures could comprehend. Initiate Phase 3, he commanded. 300,000 dreadnoughts moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding of space combat. They weren't just ships. They were a living, breathing demonstration of humanity's evolutionary potential. The Yurlan had spent decades attempting to undermine human technological development. They had launched covert campaigns, sabotaged research stations, murdered promising human scientists. Their belief in their own superiority was about to become their ultimate weakness. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's infiltration protocols began to unfold. Each dreadnought carried more than weapons. They carried the collective technological innovation of an entire species pushed to its absolute limit. Quantum processors that could think beyond traditional computational boundaries. Adaptive neural networks that learned and evolved with each millisecond of engagement. The first wave of the attack was silent. Quantum entanglement fields began to rewrite the fundamental operational parameters of the Yurlan command station. Shield generators collapsed from within. Communication networks dissolved into a nightmare of conflicting signals. Defensive systems began targeting their own infrastructure with terrifying precision. Full-spectrum analysis, Marcus vocalized to the ship's intelligence. Prometheus Prime responded instantly, not with a simple report, but with a multi-dimensional breakdown of every possible strategic outcome. Each potential response was calculated, predicted, and prepared for in microseconds. On the surface of the command station, chaos erupted. Yurlan command staff watched in horror as their most secure facilities became labyrinths of technological madness. Quantum lock doors opened and closed randomly. Automated defense systems turned against their own installations. Dr. Samuel Wong monitored from the hidden command center, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Adaptive response protocols at 99.9% efficiency, he muttered. This wasn't just about military victory. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth. Humanity was not a species to be controlled or dismissed. The Prometheus Dreadnoughts moved with a grace that defied conventional understanding of space combat. They were living weapons, each one a neural network that could think, adapt, and strategize faster than entire enemy command structures. Admiral Chen's final directive echoed through the fleet. Demonstrate our potential. Minimize unnecessary destruction. It was a surgical strike designed to dismantle power, not to destroy life. The Yurlan would learn that humanity's approach was about precise, calculated justice. As the command station began to crumble, Marcus allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The reconstruction began before the last echoes of conflict had faded. Remaining dreadnoughts transformed from instruments of strategic brilliance to architects of galactic renewal. They weren't conquerors. They were builders. Humanitarian aid flowed where destruction had once reigned. Technological assistance rebuilt what conflict had broken. Diplomatic reconciliation replaced centuries of brutality. Dr. Kamila Novak stood on the observation deck of the orbital reconstruction platform, watching as human teams worked alongside representatives from dozens of alien species. The scene was nothing short of miraculous. A young Zorax engineer worked side by side with a human technician, their hands moving in perfect synchronization as they repaired a critical infrastructure system. Languages that had once been incomprehensible to each other now found common ground through shared technological understanding. We're not just rebuilding. Admiral Area Chen explained during a galaxy-wide broadcast, we're reimagining what cooperation truly means. The 500,000 dreadnoughts had become more than a military force. They were living libraries of technological innovation. Each ship contained centuries of human research, adaptive learning systems that could solve problems most species couldn't even comprehend. On planets once devastated by concordance oppression, human reconstruction teams worked tirelessly. They didn't impose. They collaborated. Advanced medical technologies healed populations. Educational systems were rebuilt with a focus on mutual understanding. Economic infrastructures were redesigned to promote equitable growth. Dr. Samuel Wong monitored the global reconstruction efforts from the primary command center. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, tracking the complex web of technological and social rehabilitation. It's not about conquest, he muttered to himself. It's about evolution. The galactic political landscape had been fundamentally transformed. Species that had once existed in rigid hierarchies now found themselves part of a more fluid, collaborative network. Human technological innovations became a bridge between civilizations, not a weapon of domination. Ambassador Lyra Chen stood before the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council. Her presentation was simple yet profound. We are not here to replace one system of control with another, she explained. We are here to demonstrate that true strength comes from understanding, from collaboration, from recognizing the potential in every species. Quantum communication networks, developed through human innovation, began to connect civilizations in ways never before imagined. Cultural exchanges flourished. Scientific collaborations emerged that would have been impossible mere months earlier. The remaining dreadnoughts became centers of learning. Each ship a mobile university, a diplomatic platform, a technological incubator. They moved between star systems, sharing knowledge, helping rebuild, demonstrating the true potential of collective intelligence. Marcus Rivera, now leading the diplomatic corps, watched the transformation with a sense of profound hope. The revenge they had sought had become something far more powerful, a chance for genuine galactic renewal. 500,000 dreadnoughts had arrived to seek justice. They had done so much more than that. They had shown the universe what humanity truly was.